What's your name?
Cairo Sweet.
I'm Mr. Miller. I'm assuming that you got one of these before.
I read the whole list.
Well, there's 12 books on that list.
Party hard.
Always said I was a good kid.
What is an adult?
Always said
I'm 18,
languishing
in the wilds of nowhere, Tennessee.
Don't know how I'll ever break this curse.
Don't you get scared walking through those woods?
I'm the scariest thing in there.
Never knew I could be speechless.
I want you to write a short story in the style of your favorite author.
Are you offering me special treatment, Mr. Miller?
Well,
John here is prepping her to be his transcendent.
Is she pretty?
oh, she's talented.
Damn, even worse.
What are you writing about? I'm uninspired. I've had no achievement. Make him love you.
I'll set fire to the whole place. I don't know how
She'd opened her mouth to say something, but the words fell away.
Why did you write this? This is inappropriate.
Write what you know is what you say.
If you don't rewrite this, I'll have to fail you.
I dare you. It's like he's been living in grayscale and you're the first thing he's ever seen in color.
You are the adult. Show some responsibility.
You're my student, and I'm your teacher. That's all. If she can convince them that something happened between us, I could lose my job.
It's not all you could lose.
You're gonna ruin his life.
burn it down, burn it down, burn it down, 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 down.
In your own words, how did it start?
Always said I was a good kid.
Hey movie fans, Board now back with you. On this video I'm going to be reviewing Miller's Girl. So this is a catch-up review of a 2024 movie, came out earlier in the year, got a small cinema release before going straight to streaming, and it is now on Amazon Prime in the UK. So this was one which had me intrigued when I saw the trailer earlier in the year, just because of the two leads in it and kind of what they were going for with this, almost like this indie vibe to this more kind of provocative erotic type thriller, like an unhealthy relationship between a student and his teacher, or at least that's something that's implied in the trailer and the setup of the movie. There's definitely a spark and an attraction between them. So you have Jenna Ortanga, who plays this rich girl who's kind of bored with her life and kind of has ambitions to be much more than just another rich girl. The latest student in Martin Freeman's English lit class. He is a failed author whose career seems to be going nowhere, so he's taken to teaching. She appears to be his biggest fan because she has read his most famous short story, A Much More Successful Wife, who's a big time erotic writer. And they have a little bit of a loveless marriage. Sensing potential in his new student, Martin Freeman's character pays her special attention by giving her a special book assignment to do a piece of writing based on her favourite author. Now, when she comes back with a suggestion, then she do a bit of writing on Henry Miller, a famous erotic writer. He points out then Miller is basically censored and banned from the reading list in this small southern town, so that she might be best to go for someone else, but she talks him into it as a very shy, sort of timid girl who's virginal, but we soon find out then there's maybe a lot more control from her, and as things progress in a very typical erotic thriller type way, she sort of turns the tables on his character. Got a best friend who's like a regular in the class. She is having a flirtation of her own with another like teacher on the faculty, like more like a gym teacher who also happens to know Mr. Miller and his wife, and that's like an ongoing thing where she at the start of the movie appears to be the more out there, flirty, confident one, encouraging Jenna Ortega's character to pursue the Martin Freeman character. Lesbian, or at least Jenna Ortega's best friend is a lesbian, and there does seem to be something between the two of them, and yet it's sort of implied in the movie then why can't they have both, and why can't they pursue and have fun with older, more experienced men rather than losing their virginity to immature teenage boys. It's sort of movie to talk about, and it's a weird movie to be released in 2024 in the sort of times that we live in now, and the way this kind of storyline is looked at and like is so risky to attraction, like that movie Crush starring Alicia Silverstone from the 90s. It's also got a little bit of a Cruel Intentions vibe where it's quite playful, and this idea of maybe like bored rich people kind of having their ways and being like quite provocative and like mischievous. So it's got a little bit of that vibe as well. So I think those are the sort of movie references that you are looking at. And it's this weird movie where it's in an awkward place being released at the time that it's being. It definitely sucked me into thinking that there's going to be something between the teacher and the student, because that's the way it is sold in the trailer. But at the same time, I was wondering, because it's a modern movie, are they really going to go that far? Like, would it be seen as too far in the culture that we are in at the moment? And would it just be seen as a bit too like sleazy and creepy? And in the end, as it turns out, they don't quite go as far as you think they are. Like, there's definitely a flirtation, there's definitely a spark. The way the story plays out is that it seems like she has control over him, and that he actually gets a spark to start writing again, as much more manipulative when it comes to her friend and her situation with the other teacher, threatening to turn the tables at one point. But I suspected that maybe they weren't quite going to go as far with it as it's hinted at in the trailer, and because of that, it's in this weird in-between place. It's in this place where maybe for the sake of the film and the drama, like, it should have went there, or at least it should have done more like playful and a bit more like a B movie where it could have had fun with the themes of the movie, or it could have just done something a little bit more serious and straight down the line with the subject matter. As it is, it's a little bit in between the two stools, and it doesn't quite feel like a satisfying movie. One of the main problems is then in the end it just feels like those other movies I mentioned, and it doesn't quite reach the levels of those movies, and it just feels in the end it just plays it a bit too safe, and it just feels like, well, we've been here and done that before, and there's not that much new to this movie. There's one or two like decent little twists or swerves, like, as I said, some of the stuff with Jenna Ortega and her friend and that kind of twist. I think it could have been fun or interesting if they'd explored like that sexuality a little bit more, how like they could have, because at one point it makes it look like the Martin Freeman character could be gay himself, because he does seem to have this bond with the other teacher, like, who's a longtime friend, who I don't know, I thought for a little while in the movie they were going to go down the road of he might be suppressing his sexuality to female characters, and that could be contrasted with him maybe not being open about his sexuality, because there definitely did seem to be a vibe or a flirtation with him and the other teacher. So I think if they'd been a little bit bolder and done something like that with the movie, then it could have been a more provocative, interesting movie. In the end, it just plays out as quite a standard movie. It's a decent enough movie. It's pretty solid watch overall, and I think that is partly down to the leads, because Jenna Ortega and Martin Freeman do have good chemistry. There's a real spark between them. They really carry the drama of the film, and she gives a really powerful, provocative performance. I think for her, I can see why she takes on this role, because it's almost like, even though she's good as like Wednesday Addams, or she was good in X, she's good in the Scream movies, it does feel like in some ways in those roles she's like playing Jenna Ortega, and this feels a little bit like her doing what Sedana did in like Challengers earlier this year, where it does feel a little bit out of her comfort zone, where she gets to play up a more straight up kind of villain in the movie. And I wasn't quite sure if we were meant to be sympathetic with the Martin Freeman character as things develop, because personally watching it I wasn't, because even though he doesn't actually go through with the affair, there's definitely a spark there, there's definitely an attraction, and he definitely encourages her and leads her on when it comes to giving her like the special assignment. In some ways he is meant to be a bit of a villain, even though she's like the outright villain of the movie in quite a predictable way. But Ortega's an interesting actress. Like, it's almost like she's a bit more mysterious and quirky than, you know, this traditional like femme fatale style character. But I guess that's what they were going for. I guess they were going for her playing against type and sort of subverting things. Really good chemistry between them, and the performances in general are quite good. The actress playing Martin Freeman's wife I've seen in other things. She gives a solid performance. At times her sort of southern twang accent was a little bit forced, as was Martin Freeman's, but she's a decent enough actress. I think one of the main problems with the movie is it never quite sold me on then he would be interested in leaving his wife, or he would be interested in cheating her. They're cheating on her to go with Jenna Ortega. Like, there just never seemed to be enough of a spark or enough of an interest or enough in his marriage to suggest that he would be bored enough to actually like pursue this relationship. It seems like he's got a successful wife. She's very attractive. They have things in common. Like, okay, it's a little bit of a loveless marriage, but I've never sold enough on that than he would actually be interested in straying. I have a little bit of this indie quirk, like it feels a little bit like a Sundance movie, and I think part of the problem with that is just some of the quirky nature of the characters and their vibes and interactions. It just feels like it's a little bit forced at times, and it just felt a little bit like, would these characters really act like this or behave in this way? Like, would they be so open about what they're doing? You would think there would be some kind of decorum or some sort of restraint, because it does escalate pretty fast with Jenna Ortega's character. And I know maybe as the film goes on, she is meant to be more manipulative, and that's sort of shown that in a way she becomes the villain of the movie, but it does seem to go a little bit too fast, where she just, like at the start of the movie, seems really timid and nervous, and then as the movie goes on, it doesn't really take that much for her to shift and become more confident to start pursuing. Coincidence and a lot of like false kind of like beats in the way characters act around the school, because there was a lot of that in the flirtation with her best friend and the teacher, and there was just a lot of coincidence really in that side of the plot. It was just a little bit too in your face. It wasn't quite believable that they would be this open about it, especially considering they're meant to be in a school and these are meant to be like their teachers. A little bit too contrived and forced. On the whole, I didn't quite buy into the main setup. I didn't quite buy into him being drawn to the General Tega character, him maybe putting his marriage at risk. Solid enough movie. It's a solid enough drama. It actually works quite well. Then there is a playful nature to it. Then they don't take the subject too seriously, because I think if they did, it would just feel like this is too cringe, this is too uncomfortable to watch. There's always a heightened sort of satirical feel to it, but overall the premise was just a little bit too unbelievable and shaky for me, and in the end it just felt like we have been here and done it before, and they didn't really add that much to this stuff. They do a little bit of a twist later on where it turns out, as I said, she's the powerful one. She's more of the villain, and the best friend is the one who becomes more sympathetic. So that was a little bit of a swerve where the best friend, it turns out, wasn't maybe as confident as she at one time made out, and how she actually says to the General Tega character, you know, you could ruin his career, you could ruin his marriage. What are you doing? And it just seems to be a power game to General Tega, and that in itself is a little bit of a cliche when it comes to this sort of movie, and like. And it's one of those dated stereotypes of these kind of erotic thrillers, which probably hasn't aged too well. And it's one of the reasons why, like, watching them now and seeing them in 2024 and maybe makes them a little bit more dated. But as I said, it's playful enough and it doesn't take itself too seriously. So it kind of gets the right balance in that. But in the end, it's nothing really that remarkable to write home about. It's a middle of the road, solid indie movie, which at times, as I said, could have done with being a bit less sort of in your face with what it was doing. But yeah, overall, not a bad movie. The other thing which is a little bit in your face and cheesy is, like, because her favourite author is Henry Miller, him being called Miller himself, like, that's his surname, that's a bit on the nose when it comes to what they're going for with that metaphor. That's my thoughts on Miller's Gal. I'm glad I caught up with it, but yeah, nothing that you can't live without. A solid enough watch, and streaming is maybe the best place for it. So I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. So a moderate kind of, yeah, check it out for free if it's on a streaming service, which it's now on Amazon, but you don't have to go and rush to see it. It's not like one of the year's best films. So that's my review of Miller's Gal, sorry. If you've seen the movie, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Support me at patreon.com/borednow for just $1 a month. But I'll be back with more movie reviews soon. See you soon, guys. Bye.